Good morning, everyone. A very pleasant and lovely morning to all my children sitting here. I could see the pleasant and lovely faces, and this gives me a lot of encouragement. So, before we move on further, let's quickly and peacefully revise whatever we have done till now in MORA. So, now MORA is the name of a baby elephant, and he was also nicknamed as Patchy by his father. Now, the earlier lessons of Mora's life were given to him by his mother. The first lesson that he got was once he was having water near a water body where there was a mouse very close to him. And it was his mother, Mora's mother. She warned Mora that he should be alert, otherwise, this small little mouse might reach his nose and hurt him. So he first learned to be away from the mice and be careful when they are around. It could hurt him in his nose. Then the second lesson that the little baby elephant learned was how to have water from his trunk. Okay. The third lesson that he learned was to take a shower bath from his long trunk and to keep his body from inside and outside clean. Then we come to know that the mother gave him the lesson about the elephant hunters, where she tells that these elephant hunters they come, they trap these young elephants and take them far away from the parents, from the herd. And if the breeze is in the correct direction, then the elephants come to know and they save themselves from these hunters. But then, if the breeze is not blowing, then is the problem. And then these hunters, these treacherous hunters, these monsters, cunning monsters, they call them, they come and they capture the elephants, especially the baby elephants. Then further she tells that sorry, not the mother, it was Mora. They talk about the hunter. And since Mora had seen the hunter for the first time, he gives a vivid description of what the hunters look like. He says that he could see the creature who was standing on his hind legs, that means the back legs, and the front legs, they were raised high from the ground, and he was holding his steel trunk in his hands and was aiming at these elephants, and the color of the hunter's skin was that of his father's pink tongue. He also told that he was wearing a basket kind of a thing on his head. Then they ran for their life, and he got stuck in a trunk between two trees. So it was the mother's and father's effort with which he was out, and he kept running, and the mother kept pushing him. But the father could not be seen. And when they turned around, they found that the hunters were aiming at father, and with a loud thud, he trumpeted twice and fell down on the ground. Now it was that time that Mora felt very sad. He was not able to move, he was not able to give a shout. The mother cried, and rather we say she squealed, and it was a sad cry, but she could not do anything. She went near to the baby kid, baby elephant, and she just nuzzled around him softly. She was in pain, and they both ran and ran to save themselves, and they hid under a big grass, tall grass. And it was there that the child was feeling hungry. It had the big lushy grass, whereas the mother could not have food for nearly 3 days and she shed tears. She was sad. Then it was that the story tells, Mora further tells that later on, gradually as they were growing, mother gave him a very crucial lesson. Please listen to this very carefully. She told for the first time about the evil creatures and how the elephants could save themselves if they are wise enough, if they are alert enough. She further says that the important line among these is he said that you should look after yourself. She also said that you should hear but not be heard. You should see but not be seen. And then on top of it, you should think correctly. You should be kind to the weaker people or weaker tribe. Then you should be clever and courageous. And you should look for your food on your own. So now this lesson which she gave is very important in regarding the chapter is concerned. Okay, because here these lines hold importance. They tell the crux of what moral lessons basically she wanted to give. Then at the same time, she told that the elephants are known for their wisdom and he should be alert enough. He should be dealing in proper alertness while he's growing up. Then gradually, Mora tells us that he settled near a lake with number of other people. His friends were there, and the other tribe people, the elephant tribe, was there. They played together various games. They learned somersaulting. They loved leapfrog, etc. They ate together. They shared their food in tidbits, and it was the food which they ate was the shoots, the coconuts, the bananas. Then finally, as he was growing, mother thought that now he could do many things on his own. So she would leave him for days or two and go away to other places. And then she used to return back also. But then she used to leave baby elephant Mora for 2, 3 days on his own under the custody of one other elephant whose name was Uncle Tushi. Now, he was a father figure to him, to Mora. He looked after Mora when mother was not around. And kind of Mora liked him also. So one day, Tushi, mother, and Mora, they were going to attend a marriage of Mora's cousin, which was in Mysore. And on their way, they were covering the journey by night. And in the daytime, they used to hide behind the rocks. Now, since the journey was very colorful and happy and strange and new for Mora, so he was very happy, and Mora was singing all along the way. So mother and Tushi uncle told him not to do so because he might get caught, and same happened. Now, when he was near the place called Shirangapatam, which was Tipu Sultan's kingdom, he started singing and rejoicing, calling the name Tipu, Tipu, Tipu. Now, listening to this trumpeting, the hunters got alert, and what mother and Uncle Tushi had feared about the hunters came true. Okay, whatever they had heard, they were warning Mora not to shout, otherwise the hunters might hear him. And this is what happened. So they had to again run for their lives. Now this time, Uncle Tushi was running the fastest. Then it was Mora, and mother was behind them. So now, since Mora was a young elephant, he was afraid, but then he thought, let me just run with all my power and let me just reach to Uncle Tushi and let me just walk along, run along side by side with him, matching his power and strength. So he started uh, running quickly. Now, while he was running, he got tired, he was panting, so he turned back. He said, let me check what my mother is doing because if I, being so young, had this problem, let me see what my mother is, how far my mother is. And when he turned, he saw that the hunters had captured mother. They were tying her with a rope. Now, this was a sad event. Again, the elephant Mora, he stood numb. He could not move. He could not utter a sound. And it was similar. The situation was just as similar as it had happened when his father had died years back. So then his heart was thumping. And then he decided, he let me not be scared. Let me just try it out once more. He looked at Tushi and he was standing far away. He was also waiting for the mother and the baby elephant. And so he started moving because he could see that mother was caught and now he was numb. So now we start further. I hope this whole summary of the poem is clear to you. Till that poem, I'm saying sorry. This summary of the entire lesson is clear to you because I just yesterday the class was some of you told me that it got muted or you could not hear me, my voice was lagging or something. So I just thought, yeah, I should just recapitulate the whole story once again for you. So now moving further, should I? Okay. So I
Yes,
walked
ma'am.
on. Okay, I walked
Yes,
on
ma'am.
nervous, afraid but careful. Suddenly there was a rustling in the grass near me. I swung around. There, every tooth bared in a savage snarl, sat Sabra the leopard, who had often made surprise visits to our home by the lake in Bangalore. So now, while he was running, while he stood numb after running, watching his mother being caught by the hunters, there was a patchy grass near the area where he was standing, and all of a sudden he was face to face with Sabra. Now, who's Sabra? It's a leopard. Now, that leopard, since he saw that she saw that leopard is she. So, since Sabra saw the baby elephant too close to him, to her, she gave a snarl. A very जिसे कहते हैं ना दांत दिखाते हुए गुस्सा होना. So she was very angry to see him, but at the same time his Sabra's green eyes glittered. Let us see. And before that, just one more thing. Now, this Sabra the leopard used to make surprise visits to these people in their near their herd in the lake near Bangalore. When they were all living in Bangalore near the lakeside, the Sabra used to visit quite often. Why? Because the water body was near them, and the elephants knew how dangerous Sabra was. So now Sabra's green eyes glittered as she watched my trembling body. At last I have caught you, she seemed to say. Whose mic is open, children? A shub and a few good children who want this lesson to go on smoothly. Please keep a track of the children who open their mics in between. Okay? And if possible, try to close their mics, or at least you can leave a message for them to close their mics. Okay? Or you can open your mic and tell them to close their mic. Okay? Anyways, coming back. So at last the green eyes glittered. At last I have caught you, she seemed to say. I have been waiting to devour you. You have been bred on the grass of my native land. These words had hardly crossed my mind when she leaped into the air and fell on me. And with paws extended, she struck me savagely with her steely claws. So now the green eyes glittered on seeing this baby elephant, and Sabra said, see, I was waiting for you. I finally got hold of you. I'm going to eat you up. Devour means to eat, with utmost satisfaction. I was waiting eagerly, desperately for you to eat you up. And now, since you are here and you have been bred up from the soil of my native land, from the grass which grows in my land. You have eaten that and you've grown uh, fat with it. So it will be a pleasure to have you and eat you up. Now, while all this was said and baby elephant Mora could realize what was happening, the leopard flung itself in the air with its claws open and landed with it and with a savage look. Now, what is a savagely kind of a look is very dangerous, very ferocious look. And and Sabra clutched the elephant with his steely claws. Steely here means the hard, steel की तरह बिल्कुल सख्त पंजों से उसने उस पे attack. I squealed in terror and was turning to flee when I decided to hold my ground and struck her with my trunk. Now, the baby elephant was no doubt very afraid and scared, and he was shaking and shivering, especially before what he had seen his mother being trapped. He was all the more scared, and this leopard then finally attacked. So he decided to run away. Flee means to run away. But then he assembled himself and decided, you see, if I run away today, I will never be able to face it. So he decided to finally stick to the place and use his trunk. And so he used his trunk and swung the leopard Sabra to the ground. And the Sabra, the leopard, it fell on the ground with a thud, with a loud noise. Okay? I was still shivering. Then there was a fearful crash in the bush, and a slate grey wall stood in front of me. So now, when he threw Sabra, he was still shivering. And then all of a sudden, he could hear the crash in the bush, and it was the uncle who came as the grey slate. He saw a big, huge grey slate. Now, slate means एक blackboard की तरह आके सामने खड़ा हो गया to protect him. Okay, from Sabra. Perhaps he was missing my mother and could not bear the thought that she was caught. She lumbered on without a backward glance. Now, Uncle Tushi, he came forward and he was missing the mother also. And he came to save Mora and to be a part of the family. And he saved him. But mother, she just lumbered. Lumbered means to move in a very sad, uh, haze, जिसे कहते हैं ना, थकी हुई सी walk. And she moved towards along with the hunters, and she did not even turn back once. Then, with a great trumpet of pain and rage, she suddenly disappeared from view. And then finally, she trumpeted once in a very sad way, proclaiming how sad she was in the custody of hunters. And then she disappeared and could not be seen also. I rushed forward. I was anxious to find my protector. But now Mora, he kept moving forward. He rushed forward rather and was anxiously looking for his protector. Who was the protector here? Uncle Tushi. So he was looking for him who was walking in front. In front of me gaped a wide space. I looked into it stupidly. Below me, I could just make out Tushi's vast outline as he stamped and raged in the pit into which he had fallen. So now, as the Uncle Tushi was moving forward, he was ahead of Mora. All of a sudden, he lost the view of Uncle Tushi, so he was looking for him. See, where has that grey boundary outline of that elephant gone all of a sudden? And then he could see that, oh, he's in a pit. Now, what is a pit? Gadha. Now, these pits are also many a times made by the hunters to trap these big, huge elephants. So, but this pit was not made by man, it was a natural pit. Okay, he had fallen into it. I stood dolefully. Now he stood numb there. I could not understand why men made traps to get the free creatures of elephant land into their gas. So now Mora was very sad and he had a surprise question in his mind. He was thinking, why do these hunters can't live peacefully? Why they are always interfering into the elephant land, trapping the innocent animals and making use of them trickily, means in a surprise way they are misusing their rights, the power of thinking which they have got, man is misusing it. Fortunately, the usual trap which men build to catch elephants was not there. This was only a crude one. So now he's saying, we are very lucky, we are very fortunate that this pit in which Uncle Tushi had fallen was not a man made one and was not very deep. It was a natural pit which was made by nature and it was a crude pit. That means it was not very deep, it was just a simple one. And the giant tusker, Uncle Tushi, was not hurt. I wondered how I could get Uncle Tushi out of this terrible trap. If only I had a fine long pair of tusks with which I could dig away the sides of the pit. Then I had a brainwave. I seized a sapling. I tore it from the earth and flung it down with a hazy idea that it might be useful in the pit. The sapling caught Tushi on the side of his head. So now, as he saw Uncle Tushi in the pit, he was worried how to get him out. So before he could think of anything, he just grabbed a small little twig and he tore it from the ground. He flung it. He threw it towards Uncle Tushi. Now he
Ma'am, your
did
voice
this
is not clear.
thinking my voice is not clear. What happened to my voice, children? Okay. So he took out a small little twig and threw at now while he was throwing this twig towards him,
Ma'am, your
Excuse me, ma'am.
voice is not
he thought
clear.
he had only to
Ma'am, your
help
voice
Uncle
is
trumpeting. Now
not
when
clear.
it just okay, is it now clear? Anyways, we
No, ma'am.
stop here. Stop here because of shorter duration. We have another class, and then that in that we will. Oh, it is showing poor connection. Sorry, my mobile is showing poor connection, children. So just a second. Is it better? Just raise your thumb if you find my voice. Now is it better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have switched over to the other number and now the connection is okay. So I'll just explain this paragraph before I end. So he threw a twig towards Uncle uh, Tushi and he had the own idea maybe if I throw the twig, it will help Uncle Tushi because he might be hungry. But that twig got entangled at the side of his head, and Uncle Tushi now he was angry with rage. Trumpeting with rage, he seized it in his trunk, pulled it from his sibling was as the twig was thrown to him. Instead of eating, he got wild because he was stuck in the and he did not want to have food, so he just crushed it under his feet. I wandered around the edge of the pit for a while. Suddenly, I thought of a way to make Uncle Tushi comfortable in his prison. A bed of branches and young trees, and later I would try to think of something to help the tusker out of the pit. So now Tushi thought that he could help Mora thought that he could help Uncle Tushi by just supplying him with good branches, saplings, and twigs. So he started throwing at him to make him comfortable. But actually, he was not making comfortable. He was making uncle go wild with rage, with anger. Why? Because किसी के ऊपर आप फेंकते जाओ twigs and he's poor fellow, he's in the pit, in the gadha. So would he like it? No. But and Uncle Tushi kept crushing these branches and twigs under his legs. Okay, I uprooted and flung down to Tushi. The old elephant seemed furious at this rain of missiles. So now he calls these twigs, etc., as missiles. Why? Because he was continuously throwing these twigs at Uncle Tushi, and he was getting very furious, very angry. He pounded them beneath his enormous feet and trumpeted again to throw the twigs and saplings, etc. This uncle, with anger, used to turn and twist it and crush them under his feet. As soon as the edge of the pit above him grew nearer, uh, and soon the edge of the pit above him grew nearer. After an hour or so, his tusks were leveled with the ground. His trunk rose slowly above the ground. Now, with the continuous throwing of the twigs and the branches and the saplings, the ground in the pit was crushed by, and gradually these twigs made Uncle rise from the pit. Did you understand? Because the elephant, baby elephant Mora, kept throwing the twigs, etc., for at least an hour or so. Finally, Uncle Tushi kept crushing these twigs under his feet, and finally he got a, he got a rise. So his trunk started coming towards the edge of the pit, which was earlier far above. You can see the picture also, how gradually Tushi is coming up. Okay, so we stop here for just now, and in the next